Hi, everyone. It's the Movie Night Society here again. Just Will and I for this movie. Justin wasn't able to make it, but hopefully he'll join us next week. We'll see. Uh,
He
yeah, we're
might
talking
forget.
about. He might forget.
He
Yeah, he
forgot
forgot
this
to
week.
watch the movie. He's busy, so it's like I can't really blame him. Uh, but I think I mean I guess I don't want to like jump right into thoughts, but I think he missed out. I liked the movie. Um, but we're talking about Deadstream, which is the new movie that's out on Shudder. It like just came out, I think, like 4 days ago or something. So it's really recent. Uh, I guess I don't know how to start this off. The basic premise of the movie is that there's a disgraced live streamer who uh, tries to like win back people and build back his image by staying in a haunted house overnight for Halloween. And that's kind of like all you really need to know about this movie, I would say. I don't think I told you anything about the movie. I didn't know too much because it's like I didn't see it yet. It's really new. But I
Yeah,
did see the trailer before I watched the movie. I
I
don't know.
knew nothing going in. I didn't watch a trailer or anything.
Okay. Yeah, I watched the trailer. I say don't watch the trailer because I think it shows too much. And I'll talk about what it shows
I can
later.
see
But
that.
it's I think we're gonna spoil the movie and probably go beat by beat with the movie. Um so I say let's just talk about what we kind of thought about the movie first, and then we'll talk about the plot. Uh I'll say I watched this movie twice. I liked it like a lot. I really like kind of loved this movie. I don't know about you, but I like loved this fucking movie. It was so much fun. Uh, what did you think?
You know, I had almost somewhat like mixed emotions about the movie because uh, I did not know going into it that it was supposed to be like horror and kind of comedy. I just
Yeah,
figured
yeah.
it
I
was
didn't. I
because
didn't
that's I
mention
think
that.
that's important to distinguish with this is it's very much like a comedy and a
Yeah.
horror, which I didn't know because the guy, the main character, who's what was his name
Uh,
again?
Sean Reddy.
Sean is very obnoxious. Like he's very over
Yeah.
the top, and
Very.
obviously that was done on purpose to kind of like
Yeah.
parody how some YouTubers are very eccentric and over the top, and they always got to talk like they're excited, and but it's like, oh, is he gonna be like this the whole time? He's very over the top, and I don't know how much of this I'm gonna be able to stand. And especially like his screaming, like the way he screams like a girl. So it just, I don't know like what other way to describe it. Like he
Yeah.
screams like,
He's.
he screams like
Yeah.
that. It's not like
This.
I'm scared. It's like it's almost like a fake I'm scared scream. I don't know what other way to describe it. So when he was like doing that through like, and he does that throughout like the whole movie, but I kept kind of like waiting for him to get like serious and like, okay, this is like the persona I do for online, and like now everything's real, and I'm just dropping that persona. But like this, it's not a persona really. That's just like how he
That's just how
is.
this
So
guy is. Yeah.
he stays that way, and I think when he like finally kind of decides like I'm gonna fight against this house and against Mildred, and he just like physically fights back against her. Is like, okay, I think I actually like this guy now, because
Yeah.
that led to
Yeah.
a lot of
Don't
fun.
spoil too much, but yeah, it is very like.
Well, we're gonna be spoiling. I'm going ahead. I'm just. I thought I was gonna. I kind of hated him like the first half of the movie. Like I did not like this guy, and then especially like there's one scene which like okay I like this guy, and when that scene comes up I'll talk about it. But that was like the
Yeah.
scene where like okay I like this guy. Never mind. But I think it was about half the movie I didn't like him. I thought he was over the top
Okay.
and annoying, but it changed. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that. I didn't think I was gonna like this guy. I think I was gonna be rooting for his death almost. He's like, man, this guy's just annoying. I really gotta watch a whole movie with this guy. I cannot stand this very like over the top personality. It just is gonna get very old. But it was pretty deliberate, I think, with what they were doing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
Yeah,
still, that doesn't mean you're gonna like it. I found it pretty annoying the first half.
Yeah, I was reading like some letterbox reviews and other people's reviews, and like that was kind of what it seems a lot of people's enjoyment hinges on, is whether you or not you like the character, and if you kind of go in knowing it's a comedy or not.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that going in. It just seemed like it was supposed to be like a regular
the trailer
horror
makes
movie.
it very apparent. But
but yeah, I think if I'd gone in mind with that, I don't think like the first half would have bothered me as much. I don't think it won't bother me now that I know more about the movie and what they were going for. But like going in blind, I didn't know that's like kind of what it was going for. So it just felt like, am I supposed to be taking this seriously or not? Like you're not. So like that's why I say I had kind of mixed, because like the first half I wasn't aware of that, and then like the second half where it's like, okay, this is clearly, because I laughed several times, especially like the second half, like just laughed out loud. It was like, okay, I think this is actually what they were going for, but I didn't know that. So that's, at that point, my opinion changed quite a bit. So those are like just quick thoughts.
Yeah, I personally, I mean, I knew what to expect kind of from the movie, because I've been sort of following, like I really wanted to see this movie because I like heard it takes place on Halloween, and I love watching movies that take place on Halloween, of course. And this was, and I love found footage as well. And
doesn't this movie actually take place on the 20th? I thought I remember him in the movie saying he was going to go on the 20th.
Does it? Well, he says Happy Halloween in the beginning, so maybe that's.
I don't know. I just
movies
remember
that take place around Halloween.
I know. I just remember him saying that because, like, oh, I'm surprised it's not on Halloween. That's, I think, the only reason I remember. I think he said it was like the 20th or something. Like, I don't think it was on Halloween.
I do remember he shows like a T-shirt that says like it does that, like, those title cards at the beginning of like Blair Witch Project and like Grave Encounters, where it usually says like in October 2022, like someone went into a haunted house. Yeah, and they went.
It never came out.
Like, yeah, but it's like a T-shirt that he's selling.
Yeah, and obviously it's like, well, that T-shirt's gonna be probably true by the end of the movie, which I'm sure was like the whole joke.
I think it says at least it says October 2022, but I don't know if it's specified a date. But you could be right.
I thought I remember him saying the 20th, because I thought it was like surprising that it wasn't on Halloween. It's like, oh, he's not doing it on Halloween. Okay. Doesn't really matter, but
no, it doesn't really matter. The movie's very I mean, like, it's not a terribly Halloween-y movie anyway, but I think it's a fun movie to put on for Halloween. I'll say that. But it's not like a Trick or Treat or something where there's all kinds of Halloween stuff going on. But anyway, I was following the movie because I heard good things from like film festivals and stuff like a few months back. Any like found footage movie that gets good buzz, I'm interested in, because I really like the genre and I like when it's done really well. And the idea of a horror comedy found footage movie intrigued me, because I don't think we really have too many found footage comedies or horror comedies. Like, I can't think of any. Something like a WNUF Halloween Special has like a pretty big comedy slant, but that's a little different. But
there were points where this felt very inspired by Evil Dead.
Yeah, I was getting that. Like, Evil Dead 2 seems like a big inspiration for this movie, and I think it was like saying that, it's no surprise that I liked the movie. I love Evil Dead, and I loved that tone that it captured in this movie. Yeah, I think like we can go into the movie and the plot now, because I think we've kind of said our thoughts.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So it basically, it starts out with Sean Reddy and He's like this disgraced YouTuber who like got canceled, and he had to
What's his
like
last
put
name
out
again?
Ready. I'm
Oh, okay. Cousin to RU. Okay, cool.
what?
Cousin to
I didn't.
RU
Are you?
or
Oh,
brother RU. Yeah.
oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. We're
But
we're now you're being the funny man.
yeah. I'm a-
So Sean Reddy is like he is very much like obnoxious YouTuber who does crazy stunts on YouTube. He describes himself as the biggest wuss, and
Accurate title.
and his channel is all about him trying to conquer his fears and do all these crazy stunts and stuff. Uh, and we don't know right away what happened, how he got canceled, or what he did, uh, or like early on. But he is uh, like quote unquote canceled, and like he put out like an apology video, but he's like coming back, and his the first part of the movie is like this video that he uploads, where he's like, "I'm back." After 6 months, I finally got monetized again, and he's like already shilling out this like energy drink called
Oh
like
yeah.
Mountain
As soon as he said that, he takes like a drink. He's like,
yeah. And then I thought it was funny. It's like he's like, I don't care about the money though, and then just all these ads for merch pop up on the screen. So it's like, okay, this character is like sort of self-aware, but is still doing exactly what he's like making fun of. But yeah, so he sets up that like he's going to face his biggest fear, which is ghosts, and he's going to go to this house called Death Manor, I think it's called, where there's supposedly like haunted places, or haunted like ghosts and whatever, and he's going to live stream himself in the house for like a whole night. And I have to say, I really loved how much is set up in the beginning, and how it really avoids all the trappings of found footage that I usually hate, or like things that found footage movies do that are like, well, why is that happening? Why is this in the movie? Like right away, he's like, oh, I have this thing on my wrist that I can flick and change camera angles between my selfie cam and my POV cam. And he's got a GoPro on his head. He sets up, like, he goes through the house and sets up all these GoPros in different corners and rooms in the house. Yeah, with the duct. That was another thing that felt very Evil Dead. Like,
yeah. I liked that was basically a recurring joke throughout the entire film, because just like at the most ridiculous instances, he's still like he's duct tape, man.
yeah,
that was funny. I thought that was a funny recurring thing.
And just how many GoPros he has. It's like he just like pulls them out of thin air.
Pretty much. I like how he names each one too.
Yeah, that was great too. Yeah, he names each GoPro like camera angle. And he says like these like GoPros are like motion sensitive, so like if we see something move, it'll automatically cut to that room.
Yeah, it's
or that
really
camera angle.
It's really neat seeing like what they can do now with found footage, as opposed to like back when Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity, and you didn't have all this stuff. So like the technology, how it's been able to kind of like give a lot of new ideas to this genre. I like, because we kind of saw this in the last movie we watched too, which is also like they were live streaming an event, but as we know with that,
yeah, that's true.
There was like a kind of a twist whereas in this one, it's like he's just pretty much like live streams throughout the whole movie, which I liked. But just, it's cool to see like the innovations of technology, like what they've been able to do with the found footage genre, and like some of the cool ideas that we saw in the last movie and this movie that stuff can like enable us to see in these type of movies now.
Yeah, I think especially this movie was really like creative with a lot of that kind of stuff. I mean, we'll get to some of the things that he does later on, but they're very creative and funny. And I another thing that like he sets up is that, oh god, what was it? That like, okay, I hate this in found footage movies because it's always like, why is there a score? Why is there music in here? And here he literally has a mixtape with him that he composed to play during parts of his adventure through this house. I loved that. That was like great.
At first, I thought that was gonna kill some of the tension, but it didn't.
Yeah,
the way they used it was really funny. But I thought, once again, I didn't know this was a comedy, so it just like they're adding like music to it. That's don't know if I'm gonna be a fan of that. But again, later on and stuff, like when I realized kind of more what this movie is, and then like there's like two really funny parts with the mixtape. So we'll talk about that probably closer on. We'll get to that.
And I want to say too, this is a good time to mention that the directors of this movie, Jonathan and Vanessa Winter, their husband and wife director team, and Jonathan Winter is the guy who plays Sean Reddy in the movie, and it also says that they like co-edited the movie and co-wrote it, and he also composed the music too, which I think is funny. It's like, oh, okay, he's playing the character who composed the music, but he actually composed the music. I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to say too, this movie feels like a very small movie in that like fun B movie way. Again, kind of like Evil Dead, where it feels like it's a small crew of people working on this project. It doesn't feel like it feels well produced, but it doesn't feel like, I don't know, like millions of dollars are thrown into it, kind of. You know what I mean? There's a lot of indie, like independent kind of filmmaking charm to this movie. But I thought I'd mention that just because we were talking about the music. But yeah, it sets up everything so well that like a lot of other found footage movies always kind of, you know, fall into those trappings of like, well, how do you make it scary? Well, you either have to, usually in found footage movies, you either have to just have the characters wait for a really long time and build the anticipation for something to happen, because there's no score usually, you know, that would break the sort of immersion. It's like here, it's like Sean's doing everything. And he even says like in the movie, like this is Sean Reddy with the most like cinematic experience in live streaming ever, which I thought was very funny. And I think it kind of is. Yeah, if this was a real live stream, I'd be like, that was amazing. That was like really like that was cool. But yeah, so he sets up all these cameras in the house, and as he's setting up the cameras and everything, he's kind of going through and talking about all the ghost stuff. And this was another thing I like the setup too. He has this iPad or tablet, and
yeah, like, where he can check all the cameras.
Yeah, all the camera angles are like.
I think that's also how he views comments too, right?
Oh yeah, he's like viewing comments from people, which was another thing I really liked too, that the chat wasn't just like there as a way to throw in jokes about internet culture. It was like, oh, the chat starts to help him later. I thought that was really fun too. But he has this like tablet where he can view all the camera angles and the chat, and add cameras and stuff. And so yeah, and he's going through, and he can he's saying like, you know, there's a spirit called the Corner Man, and he had a journal, and he's like showing pictures of the journal by like going into the tablet and like pulling out files that he's like prepared and stuff as he's setting up the GoPros, which I thought was fun. It's nice to see like a movie think of those things ahead of time and like present them that way. And yeah, he shows like essentially, I guess the backstory of the house is that there was this woman named Mildred who hung herself in the upstairs, like near the stairway, and the idea is like she's probably collecting people's souls as a way to like make herself more powerful and all that. And yeah, it's just like, it's nice that the first half of the movie I didn't feel was boring because it's like setting up so much and like keeping you pretty engaged.
Yeah, I
And
didn't find
I
it
mean,
boring. I just found the guy obnoxious.
right. But like that, I think the first half would be boring though if it didn't pay off.
Oh
And
yeah, for sure.
that's the thing about this movie is like I felt like everything paid off in this movie, like every little thing. Like Sean goes into the house and he finds like needles because like there's like people go in the house and like probably did like shoot up heroin and did drugs. So he finds like all these needles there, and then he uses it later. I
Yeah,
That was great. I did
yeah.
not expect that to come back at all.
There are things he observes, like when he gets in the house, that come back that either he uses later or get like some type of payoff. So that was nice.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I also like how you're never really sure when things are gonna start kind of getting crazy in this movie because it has like a pretty, I think, quick start, but it works. And like as soon as he's starting to put stuff up, it's like, well, stuff could start happening now. Like little things you just don't know. And I thought it actually did a pretty good job of making me a bit tense because I wasn't sure when things were going to start happening. Especially like
yeah.
he would be sitting down and talking his chat, and like the door behind him would be like slightly open. It's like something could go by there, just giving off what we've seen in other found footage stuff. Like you just don't know when things are going to start taking off.
And even just like little things that happen. Like I think the first kind of ghostly thing that happens, I mean, it's very slight, but like there's a part where he kind of he's like he has his laptop set up in one room that he calls like the safe room because there's apparently no ghost activity in there, and then we kind of find out why later. But he like sets up his base camp or whatever there, and like his laptop is set up, and he like crouches down to pull something out of his backpack, and the camera and the like live stream switches to one of the motion sensitive cameras for like a second, and you're like, oh wait, like what happened? Like you're like,
Yeah,
oh okay, things are already starting to kind of go.
pro.
And GoPro, yeah, all the GoPros. And yeah, he just like there's funny things like he's obviously like live streaming this and he's trying to like keep people engaged. So there's a part where like people are like, this is boring, I'm gonna like leave, like this isn't exciting. And he's like, no, don't go. It's
I
like
got this little spinny wheel that I can do.
yeah, he has a wheel of stupid things to do, which include like seance, exorcism, spirit board, EVP, and then something else I forget. I was like, that's funny. Uh, and oh god, I was gonna say something. He's also like, uh, oh god, I forget. I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, he's like still live streaming and like trying to keep people engaged and stuff. And oh, that was the thing. He has a rule for the viewers and the sponsors. He's like,
Oh
my
yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely what he talks about.
if there's anything like wrong or like something creepy goes on, I have to check it out. That's the
Oh,
rule for the whole like.
before that though, I think this should be talked about too. Is he is making sure he takes like precautions so he's not able to leave. So he takes the spark
Oh
plugs out of
yeah.
his car and
Oh
throws
my
them in the
god.
woods. Which I mean, dude, you're gonna have to look through that in the morning.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah,
I
and
guess a bit extreme. He's like, I know myself. If I can't be tempted, so he takes the spark plugs, chucks them into the forest, and then he locks himself in the house. Like he gets into one of the doors and he locks it, and he drops the key through a vent in the floor. It's like, I know myself. If I get scared, I might want to leave. I gotta make sure I can't leave. It's like,
yeah, he puts his own lock on the front door.
yeah.
And it's just it's really funny. Like again, like I went in with the expectation that it's a comedy, and it just made me laugh because I'm like the
frustrated.
setups are
like, what are you doing, dude?
the setups are like so obvious. Like, okay, of course he's gonna have to get the spark plugs at some point.
Yes, and of course he's gonna like try to get that
the
key and everything.
And
Yeah,
it's like, it made me laugh because it's just so obvious. Like, oh, of course, and it's just it feels like it's almost making fun of that
Yeah. What I
found
like,
footage
especially about the
trope.
spark plugs, is like that's something he did because it's not like he would try to get in the car later and be like, oh no, my car just doesn't start, like a lot of horror stuff does. Like the car just doesn't start. It's like, no,
Yeah,
he took the spark plugs out and threw them. So
yeah.
I,
It's weird too. I would have just thrown the keys instead of spark plugs. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, why not throw the keys away, not two
I don't know
things?
why throw anything like into the woods because in the morning you're gonna have to go and look for it anyway. It's like it could get gone buried. An animal could like walk over it and like get dug into the dirt. It's just not a good idea. Just because I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to spend time looking for it tomorrow morning anyway. Should have like
yeah.
maybe like left it in his car. Well then I guess he couldn't. I don't know. The lock seemed like it was enough, but
I mean, of course, it's also like he's doing it for the audience as well.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, he doesn't think anything's actually going to happen, so
yeah,
he can do these silly like, oh, nothing's gonna happen to me. I might get scared. It'll be scary, but obviously, nothing's gonna happen. So he does obviously stupid stuff, which will come by to bite him later.
yeah,
But I just think it's funny. It's just like it's his own
literally.
doing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's also really funny.
and because like he's so over the top, he does something very over the top. Like I'm gonna take my spark plugs out and throw them in the woods so I don't leave. So
Yeah,
it fits like the personality of the character.
yeah.
So
I think the character is at least very consistent throughout the movie.
he is very consistent throughout
Yeah,
the whole movie.
yeah. He's a wuss, and yeah. What was something I was going to mention? Just like oh god, I can't remember again. He shoot, I can't remember. He what happens next here though? He like is setting up cameras and stuff. There was another part of the backstory where Mildred apparently like killed children or someone killed children. So there's certain parts where he's like trying to communicate with
Yeah.
the dead children.
Yeah, he starts hearing some noises throughout the house too, like some thuds and thumps, stuff like that, but like nothing too major.
Yeah. Yeah, he's setting up everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything that happens that's major before.
I don't think I think
I
after
feel like
he sets everything up, like he starts hearing some like loud thumps and he starts really getting scared, and then we get introduced to
oh yeah
another
to
character, Chrissy.
Chrissy. Yeah, which was a surprise, like to me. I didn't expect another character to show up, but
Yeah,
but it turns into something later.
yes. Yeah, it does kind of catch you off guard too, because especially like opens the door and it's like, oh, there's another person there. What the heck?
Yeah, and
But
it's
she's like, I'm a big fan. I came by because I'm just like a huge fan, of course. So I had to come by and be part of this. And obviously you're kind of he's immediately suspicious and like everyone should be because it's like, how did you even find this place? It's out like in the middle of nowhere. And she doesn't really
yeah,
give a good explanation, just like, oh, I just like I found a way. So
and
something's up.
and something I thought about too on my second watch that I can't believe I didn't think of before was like, wouldn't she have set off the motion cameras? You
Yeah.
know,
I didn't even think
like
about that.
yeah, I didn't think about it either. It's
Yeah.
like, oh well, yeah, if
A
she
person
got
walking
there,
through the house, like just normal person, should have sent off all the cameras that he had there. Wow, yeah, I
yeah,
didn't
and
think
Sean
about
doesn't
that.
think of that either. Oh, I wanted to say, just before we get to Chrissy, like too much, like I do like how resourceful and prepared Sean is. That was actually like a likable character trait of his. Like he has like tons, like everything is set up and prepared, and he's like he seems ready for like
He's got
anything
the
that
little
he
pack
thinks could
of like
happen.
the garlic and the holy
Yeah,
water and all that stuff.
yeah, and a silver dagger. Oh, that was another thing too. In the video he shows before the live stream, it like shows like each object one by one, and then it shows like a PB&J sandwich that is like mom packed, and there's like a note on the side, and I don't know if you paused and read the note, but it says like 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 Sean, like we love you, like you may be a douchebag, but we still love you. I thought it was
I
really
didn't
funny.
catch that. No, that is kind of funny. Like your mom writing that.
Yeah, I paused that the second time because I was like, that has to say something funny. I wanted to mention too, just like some of the pranks he did that he shows earlier on. Like he throws like something at like a cop and it's like a running away from the cops challenge. And then there's like a baby Moses challenge where he like gets in a basket and gets like thrown like sent down a river. It's like so absurd that it's like
And then he
oh
gets
man,
smuggled across the border or something in like the back of a trunk.
oh yeah, that's something that he got canceled for, or like one of the things he got canceled for. And it's like that's so. And I was kind of, I don't know, maybe we should talk about that when it happens later, or
Yeah,
if we
sure.
just mention it now.
Yeah, we can whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll mention it later. But yeah, so anyway, back to Chrissy. She shows up and yeah, she's like, I'm a huge fan. I follow all your stuff. And Sean is like kind of relieved to see another human being.
Yeah, which I thought was like pretty realistic. You know,
Yeah.
even though it's like, because he's not thinking immediately like, well, wait, once you actually start thinking this is kind of suspicious about certain things, it's just like, oh man, I thought I was in this house all alone and now I'm not. And who helps have a second person. So like that reaction and line of thinking is pretty like believable in the circumstance.
Yeah. And then he asks the chat, like, should Chrissy stay or not?
Oh yeah,
And
he
doesn't really want her to stay because he's like, it's not going to be as scary with like two people.
I also think he doesn't want her to go though because he's really scared.
Yeah, so he's like kind of like on the fence.
He's always
there,
like, sponsors. Like, I'm not lying. This is. I didn't ask her to come. She just came on her own. Don't drop me, sponsors.
Yeah, yeah, he cares about the sponsors. Another joke that I like too was that he like swears earlier on. He's like, "Ah, shit," and then he's like, "Oops, don't demonetize me,
Don't
Livid."
demonetize.
Like, which Livid is not a real app, right? I think it's made up for the movie.
I think it's made up for the movie. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. In the credits it says.
I mean, it's supposed to be Twitch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's essentially supposed to be Twitch. But he's like, don't demonetize me, Livid. He's like, this is a really tense situation. I feel like there should be some kind of 3-strike rule. And then I thought it was funny later on. When he swears, he says strike afterwards. I don't know how many times he did it though. I didn't count, but I thought it was funny. I feel like by the end he probably said like he got at least 3 strikes, but I don't know. Someone will count it. Yeah, so the chat seems to almost overwhelmingly agree that like Chrissy should stay. He gives her a GoPro camera and oh, we should mention this is important. Right before this happens, like literally right before this happens, he finds this thing. There's a closet in the safe room, and it's like this. I don't know. It's like this weird shape that's like kind of like 3 points going up and like
it looks like a hand.
Yeah, it looks like a hand with an eye in the middle.
Yeah, this is pretty important to mention.
Yeah,
because he doesn't know what it is. I like how he says like he picks it up. He's like, "Oh, this is the reason if anything bad happens to me, it's going to be because of this."
Yeah,
that was true.
Yeah, there's funny lines like that when you watch it again that are like clearly like foreshadowing and like setting up things. Because yeah, this thing. There's a point where he like runs back into the safe room and he accidentally steps on it, and because he threw it on the floor, and he accidentally steps on it and breaks it. And then later on, we find out that it's essentially what frees Mildred's spirit. And so I thought it was kind of funny to mention like that it's like completely on accident that that like Mildred's ghost shows up. Because it's like, if he didn't do that, he would have been fine. Like, it probably would have been like, okay, there's some ghostly things going on, like EVP. I hear something, a door moved, but like not a physical like ghost showing up.
Yeah, it's really just the whole thing could have been avoided, obviously, if he wasn't an idiot.
Yeah,
but that's like what makes it funny though. Is like everything that's like happening. It's just it's because of him.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, he's like interacting with Christy, and they're going around and checking out the house. Chrissy like scares him a couple times by like hiding behind a door and then popping
Yeah,
out at him.
appearing to disappear, but not,
Yeah,
then jumping out and be like, "Ooh, gotcha."
yeah. They go into what is it? The bedroom with the corner man that's like downstairs, and they spin the. Well, I can't remember. Do they? I think they go under. They find like a room
Yeah,
to like this
underneath the
underground
stairwell,
stairway.
and they find
Yeah,
her diary or journal with her poems,
yeah,
which if
and
you couldn't tell like that she has to do with the house or is related to the house in some way. Like he makes a comment like, "Oh, these poems don't even rhyme; they're no good," and she's like, "Yes, they are."
yeah, yeah,
Like, okay, well, because they're hers, so of course she's gonna like defend them. Like, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but if you didn't know, that line should clue you in.
yeah.
Like,
I
that's
wasn't like
Mildred.
I wasn't totally like I didn't put together like, oh, it's Mildred yet, but I was like, there's definitely something off with her, and like something, she's part of the house somehow, you
Yeah,
know.
but
Uh,
I think it was like that line where it's like, okay, this is Mildred, because
yeah, that was
he disses the poems, and she doesn't like
yeah, that
that.
was funny.
Like, so like, no, they're not. Not lame.
Yeah,
You're lame.
and yeah, they find a little chest as well of Mildred's. Inside the chest, they find a big chest, and then there's a little chest, and then they find like a mummified like dog or something in the basement, and then like
Was a dog?
they
It looked
get
like a
out.
cat to me. I couldn't tell though.
Oh,
They only like, briefly show it.
it was a cat. Uh, and
That
yeah,
was
then they
cool.
run out, and then they're like, well, we got the diary, and Sean's actually excited to spin the wheel of doing stupid things again, and it lands in between the spirit board and the EVP, so they do both. I don't know. The EVP part didn't seem important in that moment, but I wonder if you go back and like boost the audio or something, if you can hear anything. Probably something like that, right?
Good, yeah, probably.
But yeah, they're like using the spirit board, and uh, Chrissy's being pretty creepy. uh, she gives she tells him a chant to do when they're doing the spirit board.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think she tells him like, "Oh, this will like protect you" or something like that.
yeah,
She
but you're
lies.
yeah, you're obviously like, okay, that don't say it, Sean. Sean even himself says like, I don't say weird things that I don't understand.
Yeah, he didn't take his own advice.
Yeah.
She's like really
uh,
insistent, so he does.
yeah, and she they hear some noise upstairs, and Sean tells Chrissy to go and check it out herself, and then something happens where Sean just like gets creeped out by the room and leaves, and it's like fuck this, and goes back upstairs, and can't find Chrissy at first, but then she scares him, and he gets really like, you know, like you're trying to scare me, you're not taking this seriously. He gets like really mad at her, and then it's like this is where it's like finally kind of revealed that like, oh, she's malicious, she is like Mildred, because she bites him in the neck.
Yeah, that
And then
really catches you off guard too, because
yeah, you don't expect it to like
you're
turn
not.
that fast.
No, it's like as soon as like he like questions like I don't know, I guess that she's like her behavior's off, like she just immediately like goes for the neck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that caught me off guard because that's like you're not. I wasn't expecting that. You know, I just expected to be like, oh, you know, I'm taking this seriously. It's just your imagination or something like that. That's what I was expecting. So then she just kind of like, okay, well, I guess I'm found out, so I'll just bite you.
yeah, she doesn't put up any more of a facade, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. That caught me off guard, but I liked that. Just like he got
And then
to the
not
point, like,
only
okay, the jig's up.
yeah, and not only that too, but like she kind of like pins him against the wall, and Sean grabs like a broken piece of the whatever
The
the
wood.
stud or whatever, yeah, the wood
Yeah,
like inside the wall, and
yeah, and he
stabs
stabs
her
her in the
through the
neck.
neck. And it's like, whoa, the movie just went up like a lot in this like one moment.
He's like,
and she's
guys, I
like,
think I just killed her. Oh no, I gotta turn myself in. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
which I did admire. Like, at least he's like, I gotta call the cops. Like, someone's dead. He's not
Yeah,
just
he's
like,
gonna turn like I'm gonna turn myself in.
yeah. And he's like, and this is funny too. He's like, in front of the computer and like talking to the chat and everything, and it's like, he's like, he's putting duct tape
He's putting
over
it, I was
his
about to
neck.
say he puts the duct tape on the wound. That
That was great.
was pretty great. I laughed at that. I was like, oh my goodness, him and the duct tape. He's using it for the wounds. Let's go.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
because and then he goes back out in the hallway, and then of course her body is gone. And what happens? Like, he follows like the blood trail into the next room, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if he goes in the room or not, or if he starts to see the. I think he sees on the camera that like there's like Mildred's body hanging
Yeah,
by the
but he can't
stairway.
see it. But he can't see it like outside of viewing it on the camera.
Yeah, it only shows up on the camera. I guess we'll also mention too, before this, Sean did see the corner man pass by in the hallway. The chat is like there's a real ghost here. Like, go back in the feed and find it. And like, oh yeah, there is like a ghost that passes by. So at this point, he knows things are already real, but this is like really escalated by this point. And he's like, I think this is where he like tries to get past Mildred. He like tries to walk down the stairs and like he's just like, I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah. So that was a pretty good like tense moment.
Yeah, and it was a pretty good jump scare. He like has the iPad or tablet in front of him, and then he pulls it down, and then Mildred's just like right there. That was pretty freaky. And yeah, what happens? I think she like gets on top of him, and like for some reason she like sticks her finger up his nose,
Yeah.
which is like kind of in the background here. It was funny. This was the only image I saw about the movie like until it released, until the trailer released. This was like the film festival like promo image that they showed, and I was like, what the hell is this movie? Like, some ghost is picking his nose. Like, what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, she like sticks her finger up his nose, and then he like breaks free and like runs down the stairs, and he's trying to get the key from the vent that he threw it down into, and like his nose is bleeding, and he pulls out the fingernail. It's like so gross. And it's like sharped at the end. It's like cut into like almost like a little claw. And yeah, then he pulls out the key, but it's not the key that he threw down. It's the key to the chest. And he opens the chest, and there's a picture of Mildred, and he's like, it's Chrissy. Like, like he that's like where he finally realizes, like, okay, Chrissy is Mildred is Chrissy. And like then what happens? I'm trying to think. What happens next? He's like behind the chair, and he's like looking around the chair on the first floor, because he like doesn't have the key to get out. So I think
he gets a rope. Like, he's gonna try to.
That's right.
He can't get out the front door because of the lock, and he can't find the lock for her. He can't find the key for the lock that he had, so he finds a rope, and it's like, okay, I think the chat that tells him like jump out of the house. He's like, I can't jump out, so he finds the rope, and like, he is hoping to climb out. So I think he like goes up to the room where there's the window and the bed, and he ties the rope to the bed. But then there's like something under the covers, like sounds like a child or a baby.
Yeah, and then he runs out of the room, and like the rope gets caught. And then I think he goes in the closet, and the chat is like,
I loved how he like just would run into the closet when he got scared and put covers over like himself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Really
so
funny.
This is what happens. He goes in the closet, and like the chat is like, oh, someone like found out like about that symbol like that you found in the closet, and it's like this like 12-year-old kid, and he's like explaining very like astutely like what the hand is and like what it means,
like,
and everything.
How does
Yeah,
How does
and
this
Sean's
12-year-old
even like,
know this?
yeah, Sean's like,
This
this
is-
kid's like 12 years old.
Yeah, I know. That's like a good point. It's like, how does he know this?
And yeah, it's just I like these moments where like people send in videos for him to watch that like explain things about the plot that's going on. That I don't know. I thought it was very a clever way to use that. Like, oh, he's like live streaming and there's like a chat and everything. That was very fun. And yeah, he basically explains that like this symbol was something that was protecting the house from the spirits, but now that he broke it, he's like he's totally fucked. And then I think he lifts up the covers because he hears something,
Yeah,
and like
like Chrissy's
Mildred's head is right there,
there.
and it bites his crotch,
I know she like bites his crotch.
which
Like what the
again
heck?
was very Evil Dead. Like in Evil Dead 2, the Linda's head falls like into his lap and then bites his hand. Uh, it's like, yeah, this movie has a lot of Evil Dead 2 nods, I feel. But he like runs out. I think he just like he runs straight out the window.
Yeah, he just
on the
jumps out
second
that window.
floor,
Like he's scared enough, and he just like
which
almost looked like he flipped out the window. Like he didn't flip, but it almost looked like that. He just
when he like lands, it looks like he like flips over.
yeah, a little bit. So
You see his like legs fly up.
yeah. So he pretty much like flips out that window. Like he's just scared
Yeah.
enough, and he just jumps.
And
Because when it showed like earlier, like him looking down, it's like you could probably jump down and like you'd probably would hurt yourself, but you'd be fine. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you like landed on your neck or something, you probably wouldn't die.
yeah,
So which ends up happening, like he
But
injures himself. But I love how he just like, okay, I'm just jumping out the window.
yeah, and it was so funny too because like the camera angle changes to the
Yeah,
GoPro
where it shows.
put
Like,
outside.
I think that was the only time that camera got used. It's just like when he just jumps out the window like that.
But that made me laugh so hard.
That was
'cause,
pretty
like,
funny.
and it was
Yeah,
clever too
the
because
way
it's
it
like
cut to it was, and it's like how he jumped was pretty funny.
yeah, and again, like they mentioned, like these cameras are motion sensitive, so like once he jumps out the window, it changes to that camera angle.
Yeah,
That's
was
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's like a big gash in his leg, and he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't look at it, but I'm gonna look." It's like I shouldn't have
I
looked.
shouldn't have looked.
And
I expected the bone to be sticking out or something.
I did too. I guess at that point though, he would have been like completely immobilized.
Yeah, immobile. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like, okay, I'm outside. I gotta find the spark plugs. So he like goes into like he looks in the trees and everything and finds the spark plugs. And then this is the first moment that I think I kind of felt. Well, I guess they show Mildred's face and it's like creepy, but like this part is like pretty unexpected. If you're
yeah, it is.
Okay, but I'll say it's unexpected if you didn't see the trailer. I'll have to say the trailer showed every monster.
Oh,
which I thought was really lame.
Yeah.
I mean, it got me to like, yeah, every monster,
Wow.
like at least once, which is like, why would you do that?
Yeah, especially like
because it's great.
Yeah, especially like at that point, it's like you said, all you see is Mildred, and the other ones that like have been kind of teased are all fairly human looking. This looked like some kind of dementic demon cat or something because it just had like
it's like
it almost looked like Gollum's face attached to like a cat's body, didn't it?
Yeah, it's really freaky.
Huge eyes and stuff, and yeah, it was.
It's
like
totally unexpected.
It is very unexpected because you expect just kind of like human looking ghosts and stuff, and then you see this creature. And at first, like you kind of see like some of its body in the ground. You hear like these noises, and it just like shows his face kind of reacting to what he's seeing, and then it cuts to like whatever you want to call that thing. And it's like, whoa, I was not expecting that.
And I have to say, the effects in this movie are great. Like all the monster effects. And there's a moment later on that I really like with the monster effects, but like the designs are great and like they look I think really good.
I think the only thing that you could tell was fake was
yeah,
I mean
later on
it's coming up I guess.
In like this scene.
Like okay, we'll just go and like talk about that because then we can
let's get to it first and then talk about it because it's very funny.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, but that's like the only time it looks kind of like okay, that's you can tell, but
yeah. So he like gets scared of the dog and then he hears like someone's voice, and it's like a police officer, it's like a sheriff. And he's like, oh, thank God, like you're here, like I'll never say anything bad about the police again. And like he and then obviously the sheriff is also a ghost, and he starts saying like, it's not
also
good for you to hurt people, Sean.
This thing made me laugh. He's like, I would never hurt someone intentionally except for you, like kicks him in the nuts.
Oh yeah, he kicks him in the nuts.
That made me laugh out loud, like, except for you, boom.
Yeah, it's also it's really funny how juvenile a lot of the humor in this movie is, without it feeling like it's like too silly.
Yeah, but I think it's because like they established the character. It works.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because none of this feels like it's out of character, because like I said, I expected him to kind of like drop, because especially like people on YouTube, it's like you never know, it's like, is this them really being authentic, or are they just kind of playing a character almost for the camera, because some people do that, play it up. So like I said, I wasn't expecting this to be a comedy, so I thought eventually like this persona would get dropped, and it's like, okay, I'm not putting this on anymore, but like this is just his personality. And I think because of that, this all works, like all these scenes, like, and what he says during them, it's like it's funny, but it never feels out of character. Like there's no way this guy would actually do that.
Even though I knew it was a comedy going in, I did expect that reveal of like, oh, he's gonna drop the persona, and like, like exactly what you said.
Yeah,
but I really appreciate that it didn't do that, because I feel like that would have been too obvious to do.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that either.
Yeah, and it's like it like you said, it helps the whole personality of the movie.
I think that was the moment when like that line and him doing that made me like kind of change about the character. Like, okay, I think I like this guy now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like that he fights back, and again, he's resourceful, because in this scene, he gets into the car, they're right next to the car, so he like gets into the back seat of the car, and like he's like, oh God, the zombie's like out there, or whatever this thing is, this ghoul is out there, and he's like, I can't see out the window, and he finds a GoPro just laying in the back seat of the car.
I know, just like
he just has them everywhere.
And
I didn't even like think about it the first time, but then the second time I was like, wait a minute, like he just had a GoPro in the back.
I guess he just had an extra GoPro that he didn't take or forgot or something, and then he finds some type of stick in this car.
It's a piece of beef jerky.
Oh yeah, it was beef jerky, and he
named
beef
cam. The camera beef cam.
Yeah, I like. He's like in this dire situation. He still has like time to name the cameras.
Yeah,
but he calls it beef cam, and he takes the duct tape and tapes it to the jerky, and he sticks it out the window so he can see. And it's like, okay,
I love that.
that was pretty funny. I think that was where it's like, okay, I know what type of movie this is now, and I'm enjoying the ride now.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous, and but it's like, it's honestly clever. At least it's like this character is resourceful enough.
Yeah,
to, like,
I mean, it's so silly because of what he has, but it's like he can't see, and he's of course you don't want to actually put your head out there or check yourself, so it's like you just find something to tape a camera so that you can see what's going on. It's so funny because it's like he takes jerky and uses it, and then he calls the camera.
He calls it beef cam.
Like, but it feels very in character.
Yeah,
but
it never
so
feels
ridiculous.
like it goes outside.
It's like, why do you bothering to name the camera anymore? But again, like, it's funny because it feels all very in character.
Yeah, and this is also great too. He's like in the car, and he's like looking at the tablet, looking at the beef cam, and someone sends him a video of like, oh, like my grandma is the person who put in the I think it's called a halsum or something like that, the hand figure, something like that.
This was funny too.
And he's like watching this video of this woman explain that like she like worked there as a nanny, and she put that like in the closet, and then like her grandson's like, he broke it. He's like, oh shit, he's gonna die.
It's like, okay.
Just completely seriously, and then
he's gonna die.
And then she's like explaining how to make a new one, which is like, oh, okay, like there's gonna be some like interesting supernatural stuff going on here. And then she's like taking so long to get to the point that he like fast forwards and like speeds up the video while also checking on the beef cam every now and then to see how close the zombie is getting. I just so like so ridiculous. Yeah, so the lady tells him that he can make a new one, but that it requires a sacrifice of flesh, and that's kind of like the one important line we hear here. And then he's like, I need a weapon. I need like I can't. He has some like snow scraper for like his car, like if you're like in a snowy area, you scrape off the snow with a little scraper thing. It's like, this is not a good weapon. So he looks in the trunk of the car and finds like this spud gun. Yeah, a potato gun. But there's no potatoes.
No. So he takes like his bobblehead.
Yeah, of himself.
Yes.
And
like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, he's not actually going to use that as a weapon. And he does.
But it's very effective because the ghoul breaks into the car and starts attacking him, and he shoots right through the guy.
Yeah, it works.
And then I think this is the part.
This is the part
you're talking about.
Like, okay, this looks. You can tell that
the body slides down. The hole in the body goes around the gun barrel itself and slides down right onto the shot.
And you can tell that's just like
so fake,
but yeah, very fake.
I think it's intentional. I don't feel like it was like, hey, this effect doesn't look good, but we have to work with it. I think it honestly is meant to be funny. Like the way how fake it looks at this point is like, okay, this movie knows what it's doing. It feels like a Frank Henenlotter movie like Frankenhooker or Basket Case, where the effects kind of feel cheesy and at times like intentionally bad to make you laugh. So it cracked me up. Like that was so funny. But then he looks at his tablet, and because he like flew himself out of the car, the tablet breaks. And he gets back into the car. He doesn't even know if he's like live streaming anymore. And I think this is where he like looks back in the chest and like finds in Mildred's diary. Excuse me, and he finds a new symbol, like the symbol that he presumes she used to gain power through making a deal with the devil or demons or whatever. And he basically pieces together that like Mildred is trying to cultivate an audience for her poems, which I think is very funny. Like,
I like it. Like, she's just like me. She wants an audience.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, you and I aren't so different after all. I almost expected him to say that, and he kind of does, but not in the same way. But he like, I think it's so funny that like, okay, Mildred doesn't want power. She just wants people to like read her poems and enjoy them, even if they're forced to. That's because any other ghost movie, I feel like that kind of premise would be something that like you would find that in another movie, but the way it's handled in this movie makes it feel so silly, like intentionally. I thought it was very funny. And he like shows the picture of this, symbol and ritual to the camera, and he's like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna beat Mildred. Internet, help me, like decipher this thing so that I know what to do when I get to my laptop.
I like how he told his audience like, decipher this for me, find this out for me.
Yeah, and this is a great moment too. I think this is where he has his mixtape and he like flips it over to the other side and it like plays this really like badass kind of like I'm getting ready to fight kind of music. Yeah, I'm going in.
That was really funny. It was like he seriously is playing the mixtape.
Yeah, it's like yep. And it's just to make himself look badass and like it's just for the stream. It's not like, I mean, I guess you could say like maybe it's to hype himself up too, but like it's so funny. Like I just, oh my god, that
It
made
was
me
pretty
laugh.
funny. It made me laugh too. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
Like, you got to be kidding me. But it's like, again, it feels in character.
yeah,
So that's what makes
it's
it work.
great.
That's what makes it funny. Is none of this feels like, oh, this guy wouldn't do that. It's like, no, if there's anything up to this point, like, this guy would do that.
Yeah, and then he goes in the house and oh well, he pulls out like some rod, I think, for like the fireplace, and like attaches the silver dagger to the end of it, I think.
With duct tape.
And yeah, with duct tape, of course,
Of
with duct
course.
tape.
I know
And
that's
puts-
I love that running gag though. Everything duct tape. I mean, hey,
yeah,
duct tape can just do amazing things. So don't knock on the duct tape.
yeah, it's great. And yeah, he goes upstairs. Uh, there's a funny line where he's about to go upstairs and he's like Mildred, you and I, like, I know how you feel, but in the words of my producers, you've taken things too far. And I thought this was a pretty creepy shot. He's like about to go upstairs and you see Mildred's body float up through a hole in the ceiling on the first floor. Like that was cool. And yeah, what happened? He like goes upstairs and is this where he finds that like child with like with the attached?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, that was a cool monster too. He finds this child with like a, again, very Basket Case. If anyone's seen the movie Basket Case, it's about like this guy who had a twin, a conjoined twin on the side of him, and it's like this weird, fucked up looking monster, and like it looked like that. So this movie is definitely inspired by, older horror comedies and stuff, and it's so fun. I loved it. And yeah, he like runs out of the room. I'm trying to think what else happens. I think he does. Is this where he fights the corner man in the hallway with the spear?
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, okay. Before this, I'm pretty sure he goes to his laptop and like and looks at the live stream and everything. But he attaches like a GoPro camera to the spear and calls it spear
cam.
And then
I thought that was a cool
like,
idea though.
That was great, yeah. But then like I love how it just like almost immediately he like fights the corner man and like stabs it.
Yeah.
The corner man takes the spear and then stabs
him. Yeah.
And you see it from the spear cam.
I like how it's like, and he takes out garlic to stop him, like, oh yeah, garlic, and he throws the garlic at him, and it's like, oh, that wasn't a good idea, and like has to run back into the safe house.
Yeah.
Or safe room. Yeah, but I thought it was funny, like it's like you said, almost immediately it gets taken from him, and then he gets stabbed with it.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what happens next. I think he like throws the diary outside the room, and then we should mention he grabs there's a cleaver downstairs that he grabs, like a meat cleaver, and he grabs that, which that was an obvious thing that was like, okay, that has to come back. The cleaver has to come back in some way. He also, while he's downstairs making the spear, he also takes the needle from like the drug pile or whatever, and like puts holy water in the needle, which I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be great. And he he throws out the journal outside the room and then sees that it's moving and that like Mildred's grabbing it, and he like takes out the meat cleaver and like tries to chop her up, and then I think like a whole fight ensues. And
one of my favorite parts, I think, too, is like he is running from her and he runs into the safe room and he like takes his pants off to make it look like he's hiding behind the desk, and she kind of falls for it. And then he's got like the chair and just says something to her or something, like, and then hits her with it.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
That was great. Yeah, and then
knocks her out. That was pretty
and then
funny.
he's just in his underwear for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
like he doesn't put
whities.
the pants back on or anything. But he before that though, he hits her in the head with the cleaver and like not kind of knocks her out. And he puts one of the GoPros on her head
Yeah.
and calls it Mildred Cam, and then he
Oh
changes
yeah.
this to Mildred Cam,
Cam.
which is just like brilliant. I loved it. I laughed so hard.
That was pretty
And
funny.
that,
Like the fact, see all these like recurring things, like him naming the
yeah,
stuff, like what he's attaching it to, is it's funny.
yeah, it pays
All
off
these
like
funny
so
little
well.
jokes. Yeah.
And it's also like it's honestly clever what he does to like put the GoPro on her head, uh, because his whole plan is to lure her into the safe room where he's like created he draws the hand symbol on the floor and is like essentially going to try to take the power away from her and regain his soul and everything. Because the chant that she gave him earlier on when they were doing the spirit board when she was still Chrissy, it's someone in the chat shows him a video and it says basically says that like that chant that she gave him essentially is like him offering up his soul to her. So he's trying to win back his soul and do this ritual and like take her power and by luring her into this room. And so yeah, he uses this GoPro camera to essentially like see where she is and like to see that she walks into the room and then surprise attacks her, like you said, with the chair and knocks her out. I love that too, that like this ghost is pretty like not defeatable, but like it is at least tangible and not like completely
OP. Yeah, it's not like
you know
it's
what
not
I
like
mean?
something like Paranormal Activity where they just never have a chance.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's like
he can fight back. Yeah,
which makes the
nice.
movie more fun. And yeah, he duct tapes her to the ritual on the floor.
Yeah, which he just uses like one piece of tape. Was like it's not gonna hold her down.
That's not gonna
long.
hold her, but it doesn't really matter.
His usage of duct tape for like every situation was pretty funny.
Yeah, and he like says everything correctly and like it seems like the ritual like should work, but then it doesn't. And Mildred, he also puts duct tape over her mouth too, and Mildred pulls herself free from the duct tape that's holding her to the ground, which it wouldn't have done anything. But I think she just punches him, right, and knocks him out for a second.
Yeah,
and then puts her finger behind her nose again.
I think that's the one where your background is from, right?
Yes,
that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
it's weird. This is kind of a spoiler.
She keeps sticking her finger in his nose, which I think he comments on. Is like she's like, why is she obsessed with fingers?
Yeah, and I liked this too. This again felt very Evil Dead. It reminded me of an Army of Darkness, where like Ash is pulling himself back out from the book, and his like chin gets elongated. There's a part where like Sean is like trying to pull her hand away from like her sticking it, her nose in his finger, and it just grows longer. That's great. But then I think like when he's knocked out, she like puts like a rag over his head, and then like he pissed in a bucket earlier in the movie.
Oh yeah, and
this
as soon as he like was
this
next
had to come back.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come back too. Especially like his head is right by the bucket, and you see it's like she's gonna pour that on him.
Yeah, and it's like it's so gross, but it's so funny. Again, it's so juvenile. Like just throwing a bucket of piss onto this man is like the most juvenile, and that it not only comes like it's the demon, it's the ghost doing it. That's funny. Like it's not just Sean. Yeah. It's like Mildred almost becomes as juvenile as Sean.
It's really funny. I'm gonna pour your piss on you.
Yeah, and what happens? Like, oh yeah, he like wakes up and like rips the duct tape off of her face, which I thought that was cool. It like rips off part of her face, and like all her teeth are like showing, really gruesome looking. And I think he manages to like knock her out, and like he puts like a cinder block on her leg or something. And
yeah, I thought he was gonna take it and like smash her head or something with it, but he just puts it there, I think, to hold her there.
Yeah, because I think he's still trying to get the power back from her, so maybe he can't kill her. But I don't know. He's like crawling away. Like they're both essentially at this point just crawling. Like
Yeah.
both of their legs are like completely fucked. And uh, I'm trying to remember, when does the bathtub scene happen?
I think a little bit after
Happens a
that.
little.
I knew that bathtub was gonna come back too. I mean, come like
Oh
especially
yeah,
when he earlier when he's like, "Oh, I'm totally gonna touch it." Oh no, I would never do that. It's like he's gonna end up in that bathtub for sure.
yeah. Oh, I think it's actually earlier, because I remember after the fight with Mildred, his eye is like really like messed
Oh
up
yeah,
and
it somehow like goes the
bruised.
room goes dark or something like that, and she's like, "I want to
Yeah,
introduce you to someone," and like his eyes are like the pupils are
glazed
gone.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like just suddenly
and
in that bathtub, and like she's trying to like drown him in that bathtub, and he keeps coming up.
yeah, and then there's a monster in the bathtub.
Yeah,
This
which
thing
that
looks
looks pretty
great.
good. Yeah, that
Yeah,
looks
I
good.
love this. And then he like he injects it with the holy water, and it like kind of just like kills it, and it just like kind of falls back into the bathtub. And he like goes on this like rant on like, yeah, like if there's anything movies taught me, it's that holy water. And then the head just
Oh
explodes,
yeah,
and all the like juice just flies on
yeah.
his
It's just like,
face,
and he
and
just
he's just completely
pauses.
stunned. He doesn't
Yeah,
even
that
say
was funny.
anything.
Yeah, that was pretty
That was
funny.
great.
Yeah,
Again, it's oh man, there's so many like funny gags, and the timing is great in this movie. uh but yeah, like I think that happened earlier, and then back to like Mildred and uh chasing Sean. Okay, there was another funny part where Mildred picks up Sean's mixtape and plays it before she goes in the room.
oh yeah, that
And he
was funny.
hits her with the chair. That was funny. That's just like, that's great. I love when movies do things like ghosts will just do silly things like that, or like, having the villain do something kind of goofy like that is always funny to me. Uh, but yeah, they're like chasing each other down the stairs, and uh, Sean is essentially like, why didn't it work? What happened? And he's crawling. He's like basically back in the foyer where the front door is, and like he found a Mildred's finger, like severed finger in the chest, and he like it's like, what is up with Mildred and fingers, like he said. And then he remembers like, oh, it requires a sacrifice. The ritual requires a sacrifice of flesh. So he like finally, like in the final confrontation between the two, it's like Mildred crawls up to him, and Sean does the chant, or the mantra to do this ritual, and pulls the meat cleaver that's still in her head. This cleaver is still in her head this entire time. And he pulls it out and chops off his finger, which again, like very Evil Dead, I felt. He even duct tapes it. Like he duct tapes his finger, like his severed finger.
Yeah,
So it's so goofy. But it
everything
does
was duct
actually
tape.
seem, yeah, but then it actually does seem to stop Mildred, and she like gets dragged presumably into hell or something, uh, which was a pretty cool shot. She like gets dragged in like this red water, and yeah, like Sean is like completely beaten up at this point. His like eye is messed up, like he's got a severed finger, uh, and like his leg is gashed. He's got like a neck wound in his, and he like opens up his laptop and is talking to the chat like, we did it, we beat this house. It's like, and then he says something like I told you, and like he pulls up his hand that is like has this like finger severed, but it's Mildred's finger.
Yeah,
And then all the ghosts and monsters appear again, and then he tries to run out the front door, but the dog does a jump scare, and it cuts out the stream, and then the movie ends, and that's it. Yeah, we talked about the whole movie pretty much. I don't know if there was anything else to say.
no, that's
um I thought it was a pretty satisfying ending. Like, uh I think the thing I was expecting, all the ghosts and stuff to like, kind of come back, at the end, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, he's taking the power away from Mildred, but Mildred's power was essentially having power over the other ghosts in the house, right? So like, I thought it was gonna be something where like they were gonna be his servants or something, but I think the way it ended was good. Uh, and yeah, I really loved this movie. I watched it twice because I watched it a few days ago, and then I was like, I want to watch it again, have it really fresh in my mind, and it was just so much fun. Uh, yeah, I think we're done talking about the movie. Should we just talk about our ratings and wrap
Sounds good
this
to
up?
me. Sure.
Yeah, uh, yeah, I loved it. I think it's going to be a movie that I watch like every Halloween now, and it's I think it's one of my favorite found footage movies at this point. It was just so much like fun. It was totally my taste. Just all the monsters, all the comedy, uh, and like really lots of genuinely clever like setup and payoff in the movie. Great writing. Uh, I thought like even though the character is annoying and obnoxious, it's like Jonathan Winter plays him really well. I thought his performance was really good.
Yeah.
Um, and like the music is really good. Like it's really well edited and
You like that
shot.
mixtape, don't you?
Yeah, I love the idea of it. It's so great. And I love how too like he's like you could buy this shirt and then he says like he pulls out the mixtape and he's like, I call it Sean Carpenter's Halloween, available on iTunes. I honestly I looked up on iTunes to see if you could buy it and it wasn't there, which was disappointing. But put it on iTunes. Like it's a great score. I'd love like just to listen to it. And yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 4.5 the first time, but I really loved this movie. I think I'm just gonna give it a 5, honestly. If you're like me and you like this type of like like horror comedy and the monsters and everything I said, like I think you'll really love this movie. The character is obnoxious, and that seems to be the one thing that people can't get past. But if you can get past it, like
Yeah, I think a lot of people might be able to like either go know beforehand that it's going to be a comedy and a horror
yeah,
film. It's a little bit
yeah,
because,
go
like I
in with
said,
that
my
expectation.
biggest thing is like I didn't know it was a comedy, so I just thought, okay, he's just
Yeah, I didn't
very
want
over
to
the top,
say.
obnoxious. But I think it is good. I liked going into this movie blind.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything beforehand because yeah, I did want you to go in blind, and I didn't know how funny or anything it was going to be because
Yeah,
sometimes
I
things
think
are
it
labeled
only
horror
this
comedy,
really
but
only
they're
would
not.
have worked with him being like so over the top and obnoxious. Like the
Yeah,
payoff is there.
yes, definitely. It's all very well set up and clever, and I don't know. It's like it's really great. Just a one location movie. Like it takes advantage of the space that it like takes place in really well. Yeah, it like does all these things that other found footage movies do, but does them really well, or even subverts them. Yeah, I think this movie is just such a blast. 5 out of 5 for me. Uh, yeah, what do you think? What are you giving it?
I think I will probably give this movie. hmm, it's like between like a 3.5 and a 4. I'd like to watch the movie again. I don't think I'd probably watch it every year, but it's fun enough, especially like the second half, like the first half. It's still enjoyable, but I think the second half is really where it shines when things start getting crazy and like it starts getting really funny. So I really like the second half, and like the first half's fine. It does what it needs to do, and I think it's pretty enjoyable overall. I would definitely watch it again, like I said, but I don't know if I'd watch it every year, but I definitely would like to watch this movie again and see if I can like pick up on any like the foreshadowing and stuff that it has like beforehand. So I think I gotta give it like a 3.5. I think that's pretty fair.
All right.
The second half,
Yeah.
the comedy works pretty well. The character is very like annoying the first half, but it works for the type of movie it is. And
Yeah, and I do like that he kind of does seem to end up actually redeeming himself in a way, or at
yeah,
least becoming
I think he
a
does.
stronger person, I guess. And I like that too, that he like starts out as a wuss and actually becomes braver. Uh, like, and it's funny too, because that is like the premise of his own channel too, is
Yeah,
like him conquering his fears.
yeah.
Of
You
course,
could
he
say
doesn't make it at the end, but still.
yeah, but he has like some development there.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
very consistent
yeah,
throughout. It doesn't feel
so
like
I
forced.
it's just so funny how I did like such a 180 on this character where like the first kind of part of the movie I did not like him. And then like once I find out it's a comedy and he has like these really funny lines and like just his reaction to all this stuff, it's just really funny. And I was laughing like quite a bit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
with the
it's a
Evil
good
Dead
movie.
connection, it's like he is a little like Ash. He's kind of a bit of a douchebag, and he's like a badass, and he's an asshole, like at the same time, you know. Uh, so yeah, I loved it. It's like a movie I really want to like just show people too. You know,
Yeah, I can see.
I think anyone would have a good time with this movie. You know, even if they don't like love it as much as me, I think pretty much anyone would enjoy it uh, if they have like the right expectations and everything. So yeah, uh, yeah, that's it for Deadstream. I definitely check it out. And next week we're talking about House LLC. This one we've both seen, I believe, right? We watched it together. I think the first time, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's good. It's very Halloween appropriate, and yeah, it's also on Shudder. So just if you want to listen along with us without having the movie spoiled, go watch it, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
That's it. Bye.